Hey everyone, this is Ian Carlin. Welcome to the Empty Cup Podcast. You're listening to the podcast where modern and traditional martial arts collide and we dissect what is left over. Today, again, joining us again on the program is Jason Korol. How you doing, my friend?
Great to be here. This is a
Yeah,
great,
I am.
great thing to do.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the program and just BS a little bit about the martial arts. Anything new going on in your world as far as your school is concerned, or as far as training is concerned, or anything like that?
Other than, I mean, I'll give you two things. One, a guy in my hometown, two guys actually, father and son, were out drinking, got into an altercation with three other guys in the bar, and the two guys, father and son, from what I understand, both stabbed the other three guys. And
Wow.
to I don't think anybody died from the whole thing, and I'm certainly not making light of a stabbing, but talk about like legality and self-defense and training is,
Yeah.
First of all, we can get to that in a second, but the other big thing is that stabbing with a tactical folder is the guy cut his fingers off. So he's got life-altering hand injuries now because he deployed a weapon in maybe may or may not have been a self-defense scenario. Again, they got arrested for it.
Yeah. Right.
Motion, and and of course the thing slid, which is why you should always slash or jab with it when you have a tactical folder, because you don't have a handguard.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
So
That's crazy.
And then we get the Conor McGregor Mayweather thing, and everyone's asking me about it. I don't know why.
So all right.
I'm a JKD guy, but everybody wants to know what I think.
I'm going to guess your opinion on it is the same as mine, but go ahead. I want to hear it.
You want to go? I think that if Floyd Mayweather makes $150 million to fight a guy who's not a boxer, he is the smartest boxing business person. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And Conor McGregor is going to make more money than you'd ever make in any. So on that alone, I mean, I think good for them. They're going to make good money. Other than that, I think it's a spectacle. And I was very disappointed with, how unbelievably profane Conor was at the press conference last week or something. And I thought, I know they want to sell it, but I was like, wow, guys, it's just, you got to go over the top here and making it, I'm certainly not going to be watching that with my kids. Let me put it that way.
Right.
I don't think Conor has a chance. Not a boxing ring.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts are that I think you're right about the money thing. It's a win-win situation all around. Everybody's going to win by doing this fight. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think Floyd Mayweather is going to kick his butt. I think there's more of a chance, though, that Conor McGregor could win than if Floyd Mayweather went to MMA. If Floyd Mayweather went to MMA, there'd be no chance. It would be no chance at all. But Conor McGregor going over to this, it's like a 90, it's like 95% chance that he'll win.
Right. You just lost me for a second.
That's all right. You came back, so.
Yes. Sorry about
that. That's good. So I read an article a long time ago, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then I want to hear you. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
No, it's quite all right.
Yeah.
So I read an article. This is a few years back in Black Belt magazine, and I'm gonna tell you the title of the article as I recall it, and some of the stuff that was in it, and a little bit about some of my history and some of this foolishness, and then I want to hear your take on this. Okay, so the title of the article was "Just Smash the Head," and it was basically, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but in a karate school or in actually any type of school that there is, with the self-defense aspect, where you practice throwing the person to the ground and smashing them in the head and stomping on their groin and stomping on their head and that kind of thing. And I used to think back in my karate days and the White Dragon martial arts days, I used to practice things like eye gouges and things. I'm not sure I would ever really pull that off, but probably wouldn't. But you know what I mean? I mean, my aspect was that I was going to do the maximum amount of damage in the minimum amount of time if I ever really got accosted. And the whole point of the article was, you might be the one going to jail. So what do you think? What do you think about this whole situation, about the legal aspects?
I love it. The legal things.
Yeah.
I think I wish the question came up more, because I did a self-defense thing. Around my city, I do a lot of stuff for like corporate things. I'll do like lunch and learns. They want to bring me in to talk about self-defense for people, and I tell them all the time. And in the case, remember the scene in Roadhouse with Dalton, and he's getting the medical checkup from Kelly Lynch, who's playing a nurse.
Yeah.
And she says, "Do you ever win a fight?" And he goes, "No one ever wins a fight." Especially in the United States, I would tell people that if you're in a physical altercation, you've already lost, because just besides the risk of being injured, you're going to have to talk to police. More than likely, you're going to talk to police, and there are so many legal scenarios that can come out of that all of them are going to cost you time and money. Even if you're justified in your self-defense, besides the chance of you being severely injured, killed perhaps, you might hurt or severely injure or kill somebody else, which is then going to require some legal representation. You're going to be talking to police. You could end up in jail, and if you think your neighbors are bad now, just wait till you get to jail. What good does it do for you to beat up one dirtbag and end up with a cell with 10 more like them? That's just self-defense wise. I don't want to complicate my life. And I think that question should come up more. Are the tactics we're using commensurate with real-world legal ramifications?
Okay. And so
go ahead.
So with that in mind, then, take us through, what you tell these people when you're called to, be the guy who's explaining self-defense for the real world.
Number one, be nice. Don't be a jerk. Okay. In our school, it's a JKD school, so we're more laid back anyway. It's not like, we're hyper traditional or something, but, and I've got a case where my students, we pick fun at each other, and we practice. If somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, what are you looking at?" And I'm going to go, "Shirt. I get the same shirt home. You look better than I do. I'm a little out of shape." And I keep walking. Right, you're laughing.
Right.
Or somebody walks up to me and says, you think you're tough? And I go, huh? You think you're tough? And I go, no, dude, my dad told me I was a sissy my whole life. That's come back with something that is going to make you go, huh? And I'm going to keep walking.
Right.
And so I practice that form of, you got a problem? Yeah, man, my dog died. And keep walking.
Yeah.
Don't get into it. Don't get into it. What are you looking at? Nothing. Oh, you told me I'm stupid. You're going to get into that kind of fight. So relax.
Right.
Have an ability verbally. If you've got some hot button thing, like the kid thing, don't you talk about my mama. I actually knew a kid in my town, and I could hear him from my bedroom when people were picking on him. And he'd be like, don't you talk about my mama. And you knew he was in a fight. So you pick your head out the window, or you went outside to see what was going on. And he always lost every fight. But anytime somebody wanted to get a fight with him, they'd say anything to him, and you could tell him anything. You tell him he was ugly, tell him he was smelly. But if you talked about his mama, he was going to try to bash your face in. And
he kind of had the Marty McFly going on. Marty McFly.
Yeah, Marty McFly.
Like, don't call me chicken. Like anything goes. You call me chicken, we're gonna fight.
Yeah. And look at like Bruce Lee on the set of Enter the Dragon with this boat scene, the art of fighting without fighting. If you put Will Smith in that role, and you have, instead of Bruce Lee, you have Will Smith. So instead of a Chinese man, you have an African American martial art hero, and instead of a bunch of Chinese, you have a bunch of black workers. And instead of the British guy walking around knocking Chinese guys over, let's say you got a guy walking around with a shirt that has a Confederate flag on it, and he's knocking over black guys. And then he comes up to Will Smith, and he throws that back fist. Everyone in the audience is expecting Will Smith to kill him.
Right.
And Bruce Lee turns it on its head, because that's the way the Chinese saw that. This British guy is knocking over, this colonial power is knocking over Chinese people. And they want Bruce to kill him. and
Uh-huh.
he outsmarts him.
Yeah.
And so that's number one, is use martial art to not get into a fight.
Yeah.
And so
I
when you get
have
an idea of,
I'm probably going to be doing a video here on because I'm also certified in neurolinguistic programming. I don't know if
mm-hmm,
you've heard of that art or
yeah,
not.
vaguely, yeah,
But it's basically kind of like the science of achievement kind of a thing. But there's lots of ways that you can kind of talk your way out of a fight, and a lot of people do it. They don't even know they're doing it. Like what you said, oh, you got that shirt. I've got that same shirt at home. That's cool.
yeah,
Uh, one
yeah.
of I heard this comedian one time, uh, and he was talking about de-escalating a carjacking, and it's actually been something that the guy it wasn't a carjacking. There was an altercation. The guy blew up, and he got out of his car, and he said, he started cussing this guy out, and he looked back at him, and he said, yeah. He goes, well, I want my jacket back. And he said, you said you were gonna borrow. And he doesn't know the guy at all. He goes, but I want my jacket back. He goes, you said you were gonna borrow it, and now you've kept my jacket, and I want it back. And the guy just looked at him like, what?
It's like,
And then he got in his car.
Nobody messes with crazy.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay,
Yeah,
so step one is stay out of the fight. I mean, I get that,
stay
and
out
I
of the fight.
totally,
Right.
we don't need to have ego. I've talked about this in the program before. I've been in very, very, very few real life I've been in a lot of full contact sport, karate, and that kind of stuff. I've been in that
Mm-hmm,
before.
mm-hmm.
But as far as
Right.
actually street fighting is concerned, I've been in very few. I mean, really,
Mm-hmm,
really limited. And quite honestly, it was because, and
mm-hmm,
there were so many times, Jason, I got to tell you, there were so many times where I didn't want to be the bigger man. I wanted to beat the
mm-hmm.
crap out of this guy, but it's just like you said, is it really worth it? Even if you beat the crap out of him, then you got to worry about, the
Right.
law, and you got to worry about whether or not he's going to take
Right.
revenge. Is he going to go
Right.
to his car? Is he going to,
Right.
what I had this altercation with a guy in jujitsu class, and it was a total accident, but he was being a jerk about it. But through my head, I was thinking, is this guy going to go to his car? Is he going to, is he going to be waiting for me outside? You have to think about these kind of things when you're talking about self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, go
Right.
ahead. Yeah, I'm
No, I
interested
mean you're
in step two.
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, I think that number two is you to try to do everything you can. If you realize you can't escape, you can't get an exit, you can't give them an exit, or you can't take an exit yourself, then you start looking for barriers. You start looking to put yourself in a position where it's not very easy for someone to access you physically. I get behind, like if I'm in a parking lot and I walk around my truck and somebody's yelling at me, unless I really ticked off Bruce Banner, I mean, was he going to throw the truck out of the way? I'm just not going to engage the guy. And again, I'm going to try to be polite, always try to be polite. So I'm not going to try and give somebody reason to come after me. I tell people this all the time. Don't draw pictures of the Prophet Muhammad for your local newspaper.
Uh-huh.
Don't cheat with a Navy SEAL sniper's wife. Don't become a drug dealer and cheat people out of drug money. What you're doing when you're doing those things is you're drawing very highly motivated men with weapons to you, and that's not very good. So the first order of business is, and if you take care of that, the other type of garden variety scenario you have would be things you can probably evade by just not being stupid and leaving yourself open for a sucker punch. So then, if you've done that, if you're trying to exit, you're trying to get a barrier, you've just really, if not eradicated, you certainly diminish the likelihood of you being in a physical altercation. And then if there is an attack, your enemy is taking extraordinary measures to get at you, which now gives you some legal cover. Because if you stand out there and I score up, you and I get into an argument, and we start. So let's say the jiu-jitsu thing, the guy follows you out to the car. It's going to be very hard for somebody at that point to say, I was just defending myself. About you followed him outside and you were yelling at him. So when the police get there, they're going to go, all right, what happened? The one guy might be down, and they're going to go, well, what happened? So let's say you start giving a blow by blow, like you blew off a movie set. Well, you threw an overhand right. I slipped underneath it. I did a double leg. I mounted him. I hit him with a couple of shots, and they're like, doesn't sound like self-defense. Sounds like you willfully engaged in an altercation. And if he's badly injured, you're gonna have to account for that.
Right.
You know. And plus, let's say you do the double leg, you get him down, you hit him, and then he figures that he's in fear of his life. He draws a weapon and shoots you or stabs you. You're running the risk of the unknown variable being brought in, a force multiplier, and you could get legally murdered. You know, I think you got that. I know everyone made. I'm going to get controversial. Everyone got mad about the racial component of Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman. And what I saw it as a martial artist was, I saw it as Zimmerman being a busybody. Goes over and punches him. Zimmerman goes down. And I think Trayvon, because he'd done MMA, apparently, from some of the news reports I saw, he mounts him because he hit him. So Zimmerman shoots him. And now we've got two people that know what happened. One of them is dead.
Right.
No, that's the problem. So again, I'm leaving out all the politics of it. The problem is that anytime you enter into a fight, you're running a risk of something bad happening that you didn't account for. So it could be a deadly force multiplier, or there could be the legality of you ended up hitting him. Bang! I hit this guy. He goes down. He hits his head on a curb. He's dead. I gotta live with that on my conscience. What I get in a fight over? Was it a parking spot? Somebody cut me off. Somebody told me I was a bad driver. I mean, that's a manifest impossibility.
Right. But you can live with that.
So, yeah, right. So, I mean, okay. So the next thing I would say is you got to look at this and go, and beforehand, as a martial artist, I'm always going to be honorable. I'm going to show everybody respect, even if they're being the most outlandish knucklehead to me I can imagine. I'm not going to use language that is going to draw fighting words that's going to draw somebody into a fight with me. I'm going to still show them respect. I'm going to have a plan. Again, as I said, I'm going to try to escape, evade, get a barrier, that kind of thing. And I will have a plan to defend myself. But before I ever do, I've already determined in my mind what I would fight over and what I would not fight over. You know, I already have it in my house. If somebody came into my house and they wanted to, and I'm telling this on a podcast, so don't come to my house and steal my TV. But if somebody waits to break into my house and steal my TV, I'm not going to go out and shoot them.
Yeah, right.
I'm just not. I'm going to shoot you if you come after me and my family. I have my family. If there's a break-in and you do get by my big dog and my alarm system, my family is in a room and we got shotguns. So if you said, and the police are on the way because I've already called the police, I'm not going to go out and engage the guy. There's too many stories of people accidentally shooting somebody anyway. So I've already determined in my mind what I would fight over. And I'll be able to tell the police exactly what I'm telling you right now. I had no other alternatives. I was in fear of my life. I had no other alternatives. I was just trying to stay away and protect myself. I need to talk to my attorney.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not going to go, yeah, this guy called me a what's a what, and I hit him in the face. Do I have moral or legal right to?
Yeah. I had a friend of mine, and this is the truth. He was totally in the right. He was somewhere he shouldn't have been in the first place, but that's beside the story. But he was at a party, and somebody was with a girl in his friend's room. So it was his friend's party that he was at, and there was an uninvited guest in the room with the girl. And his friend came in to the room, and my other friend was right behind him. And this guy threw a punch. He said, "Hey, get out of my room." And this guy threw a punch. Well, my friend had actually been training with me. He was a student of mine at the time, and he had been training with me. And I took him all the way through the basics of Wing Chun at the time, because I was just really solidly doing Wing Chun. And he did a Busao and a punch, and then he just came straight in with chain punches. The guy went down to the ground. He landed on him, and he hit him a couple times. And then as soon as he realized the guy was done, he stopped. He let him up. The guy went out and told the police that he was jumped by 3 people, and that my friend, which wasn't true, and that my friend kicked him when he was down, and that and anyway, that there was excessive force. The police came, arrested my friend. All he did was defend his friend. He didn't do anything.
Right.
And he ended up having to, even just because you get to the legality side of it, people don't know this. They think the legal system is full of justice. It is not full of justice. It is full of what you're willing to settle for in court, basically. And he totally, I mean, all he did was defend his friend. The guy threw the first punch, and he had to take a he actually had to plead guilty to a misdemeanor because he couldn't afford to go to court. So
right.
yeah, it's just
that's the reality of self-defense in a Western democracy. Try to get people aware of that. Of most male fights, I mean, are going to be ego fights in some case. Somebody lost control. You try to go, do an audit of your life.
Right.
About 5 places you home, and like I'm at my house, I'm at my martial arts school, in the store, I'm getting a car. I mean, any given day, if you're out at 2 a.m, people out 2 a.m. So
yeah,
those are ways you can reduce your risk. But then the other thing is, as soon as you start to see any type of altercation develop, try to get out of there. But then again, have a very clear plan of what you would fight under. I will only fight if I feel in imminent danger. I can clearly, I'm taking every precaution I can, and I'm getting angled off as I'm trying to escape. I think the fight's on, that kind of thing. I'm saying, hey, I don't want any trouble, I'm trying to move, and the guy cuts me off. I might, you might at that point need to fight. That you're going to have to give an account of what you did to the police. So I would always suggest that you have to make sure in that event. I would have suggested that your friend call the police right away anyway. So I was just assaulted.
Yeah, right.
Make sure you get your case out there.
Yeah. Normally the person to tell them first is the person who the police are gonna listen to anyway. You really are at an uphill battle. So if you have the chance to tell the police first your story, and you think that it could possibly go, and you're justified in it, and you think that you were at all, that at all it might go to the police, get your story out there. That's what you're saying too, right?
You got to be, again, you've got to be proactive. You can't sit around and go, I'm a good martial artist because at any given Friday night I'm doing sparring with guys, and I'm sparring boxers, MMA guys, whatever the case is, and I can get a false sense of security because I can hang with these guys. Now, I can, that isn't necessarily representative of me being able to conduct myself well in a type of fight where I just get sucker punched. I get multiple opponents, or worse yet, I'm one of the best guys in my gym, right? Let's say I'm a really good guy in my gym. Bang, bang, bang! I'm knocking everybody down. I'm knocking everybody out. Everybody's telling me how great I am, how wonderful I am. And so something starts out in public, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, man, I'm awesome. And so somebody's gonna give me crap. I'm gonna nail them. See, so now you're more than likely, because of your confidence, to get into a fight instead of trying to get out of a fight.
Yeah.
And so that's also detrimental to one's self-defense skills, because the objective is always to try to stay out of the fight and to have professional pre-fight negotiation skills, pre-fight exit skills. If you don't have them, then you need, however you look at it, you need to have post-fight skills too.
Okay, that's
interesting. Once your friend stopped the assault, he had a legal and moral right to cease his counterattack.
Okay, hey,
that was very important.
Jason, just one quick second. I normally do filming on this, and I don't normally edit it or anything like that, because the film is just kind of an extra for people on YouTube. The audio is the most important to me. And right now, like, there's some audio problems that are coming through on your end. So go ahead and click your camera off. I'll keep my camera on, click your camera off, and let's see if we can get a better audio. Because sometimes if you click your camera off, do you have that option?
Camera off.
Or do you not have that option?
I do not. Here. I'm not sure if I have that option.
All right. Well, here, I'll click my camera off.
Okay. My camera's off. Is that okay? Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you. And let's just see if that, because normally if you take your camera off the audio, then, all the, I don't know, the tech stuff, but all the audio improves.
Now, the problem, of course, now you're going to lose all those people who are just watching so they could look at my beautiful mug.
Oh man, I'm telling you, that's well, I got your picture, so they'll have to be satisfied with that.
That's it. That's it. So I here pick my nose or something. All right, never mind. All right. Okay. Okay, we're post fight. Yeah, post fight. You got to know, number one is the minute the attack has been rendered now impotent, if you will, the minute the attacker has lost his ability to threaten you, you need to cease your assault, your counter assault.
Right.
And then you can only use force proportionate to deal with that assault anyway.
Uh-huh.
So therefore, like you were saying earlier, if my assailant throws a punch at me and I respond with a lead punch, then I hit him in the face, bang, and then I hit him with a groin kick. And I said last time, I think that everybody should be in shape, they should be mobile, and they should hit everybody in the groin whenever they get a chance. So he doesn't say you kick him in the groin, down he goes. Now, proportionately, at that point, I can run out of there. I can escape. Now, if I've got my son with me, and he's 10 years old, I may not be able to escape with him because my son. So I might need to do more damage to make sure this guy can't carry the fight because I have an elderly person or a child with me. So the law would take that into consideration. But if it's just me and I'm in good shape, they're going to go, well, you could have just run away. The fight was over. So if I hit him again, that could be considered to be assault.
Right.
So then at that point, if my enemy is now in fear of grave bodily injury, and I just mentioned the Zimmerman-Martin thing, when a man sitting in your chest beating your head in, the problem you have is that you now give that guy legal reason to believe that he's going to be gravely injured, perhaps killed, so he can escalate. He can use a force multiplier because now he's in fear of his life.
Right.
So again, tactically, once that assault is rendered neutralized, you need to break off your counter assault. And then legally, you're going to be asked that. Let's say same scenario. Guy starts to throw a shot at me. I'm too quick. Bang! I hit him with a lead punch and a groin kick. Down he goes. And good for me, right? I should run away at that point. Right. If I kick him in the head, that's getting dangerous. Especially since today everyone's videotaping everything. That's going to
stomp the head. Yeah.
That might be all they see. They just might see me kicking a guy in the head who's down on the ground, and I'm probably going to go to jail. I may get out of it if I have a good lawyer, but I'm probably going to go to jail.
Right. They're not going to sit and start the fight from the beginning. If an altercation breaks out, they're going to pull their phone up just as you're winning. And this, I need to say this too, because there's a couple things I want to say in response to what you're saying. And that is, number one, it's kind of interesting because a little bit of martial arts can help you, but it can also hinder you. Like you were mentioning the Trayvon Martin thing and him doing, a double leg takedown, getting to the mount. And that's like one of those things is just like, that's great. But what could he have done if he knew how to lay on him properly and control the limbs? You know what I mean? It may have been a completely different scenario. So if you're listening, better to learn your martial arts system. If you would have gotten, Zimmerman in like say an Americana, rather than just punching him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's a different scenario.
Knowing a little bit of martial arts can actually sometimes hinder you because you might not be in total control. And the other thing that I wanted to say, and I'll bring this up and I'll let you talk about it too, and that is sometimes, people don't want to fight you if they think that they know you're going to lose. Like they know they're going to lose. They don't want to fight. They only want to fight if they think they can win. For the most part, unless you are dealing with, somebody who likes pain. But even somebody who likes pain still doesn't like the ego loss. And the reason why I bring this up is I've had a couple of cases where I have not had to fight. I guess I should say my interaction with my opponent was really limited, and I'll tell you about both of them and let the audience know. The first one was as I was in Israel and I was like guarding a stage, and I won't tell you why right here, but that's basically what it was. It basically kind of like a guard, a bouncer, and we were doing these plays on the street, and these people were kind of crowding the stage, because they wanted to see what was going on. And this one kid was pushing me, and he's pushing his arm into me, and he, I told him to back away, and he made, he rubbed his fingers together like he wanted money, and I said no, and he pushed on me a little bit more, and I simply grabbed his elbow and I had him at the right angle, and I pushed him, and because of the angle that I had and because I knew martial arts, he went flying back. I mean, he flew probably like, 10 steps back. He didn't fall. He caught himself. I didn't do a throw or anything, but I shoved him just in the right spot. And at that point, he didn't want anything to do with me. He was like, okay, I'm going to get my ass handed to me. And the other time, a friend of, this was kind of a friend who was like at his house or whatever. And things were escalating, and I reached up and I kicked him towards his head, and he didn't think I could kick that high at all, And
I saw video of you. I saw video of you, and I was like, wow, you kick a lot higher. I mean, don't get angry with me, but I was looking at you and you surprised me. I was like, well, I didn't expect you to be a kicker.
Yeah, right. No, a lot of people don't expect that, but the first style I got my black belt in was Tong Sado, and so like I actually have really super good kicks. But I just did a little tap right in his mouth and with a kick, and that was all he was interested in having. He was just like, So you don't, even if you get into an altercation, you don't necessarily have to go, 110%.
No, yeah, it's got to be proportionate to the threat. Absolutely.
Yeah. But let's get past that, and let's say because I'm sure that in the end, at the end of this scenario based what we're saying, you've ran out of options and you actually have to fight. What do you say at that point?
I think number one, you have to fight. If you've taken the aforementioned steps, I think that you then have clarity, moral, tactical, and legal clarity as to what type of force you need to be using, and that type of force will be enough to, I would say, hopefully, to diminish the threat to such a point where the threat is no longer a threat. And your objective is still to escape.
Right.
Or have the police get in there and settle the thing out. It can't be like I've heard somebody say, I mean, I'm sure you have too, about a home invasion or something, and it said if they shot somebody and he wasn't dead, they'd go over and finish him off. And I'm going, wait a minute, you're going to murder somebody? I mean, it's a threat. So again, the tactical, moral, and legal issues are that if you are forced to actually use violence to defend yourself, the thing you have to consider is when you tell the police what you did, you may want to not even talk to them and just say, I need to talk to my attorney, but have the honesty to say, I was in fear of my life. I couldn't get away. And therefore, And so if you can say that, you're probably going to be okay. But if if you run into a scenario where it was a bit of an ego fight, then I don't think you're going to be able to say that. It's going to be a little bit easier for people or the police rather, to bring charges against you, which then brings me to the next case. What tactics are you using? Like, as we just mentioned, Trayvon Martin, I do think certain tactics for self-defense are horrible. I just saw a knife video of a collie guy, obviously very, very good with his knife. But I mean, I saw this and I thought, wow, that's 101 ways to commit a felony. I mean, I didn't see a single move in there that would have been even remotely self-defense. I mean, you're going forward after a guy with his knife. And again, there could be scenarios where I suppose, anarchy breaks out, the zombie invasion finally happens. But for overall self-defense, you bring a knife into it and you're now using deadly force. And so you have to have reason to use deadly force. And then still, let's say a guy throws a punch at me and I've already got my knife out and I cut his arm and I cut his bicep with the knife as he's showing a punch at me. Now, if I bring that knife back through and I cut his throat, I killed him.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's just the thing. Or
if you cut that brachial artery, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but the one that runs out of the heart down the bicep, you can get that. And
so, you have to take this into consideration. And that's why beforehand, the martial artist is incumbent upon us to live. And I know it sounds like a flippant thing to say, but it's not. It's not a flippant thing to say. To live a honorable life, treat everybody with respect, because the last thing in the world you would ever want to do is to really severely hurt or kill somebody. And that's why I think the difference between a mixed martial arts and of course, listen, I've got boxers and MMA guys here, and a former boxer myself, but there is a major difference between sport violence and real physical violence that has ramifications as it does. And so what we're trying to do is preserve peace. We should be men and women of peace. And so I don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
And I think that alone, because we talk about the fighter, people come up to me and say, what would you do if I threw a jab at you? And my joke is always, you or who? I mean, there's a big difference between, my wife throwing a punch at me and, Mike Tyson throwing a punch at me. There's different attributes. So, and I think the same thing happens to people with their character and their morality. If you yourself are calm, you have self-control, and you show people respect, that's also going to carry you through violent altercations. If you can't control yourself in traffic, what makes you think you're going to control yourself in a violent altercation? What makes you think if you're screaming your head off because somebody cut you off, that you're going to be able to compose yourself and not go overboard if somebody slugs your wife? Now think about that. A guy asked me at class a while back that he was out to dinner with his wife, and some drunken loser at this restaurant said something very crude. I won't repeat it here. He said something very crude to my student's wife. And my student was upset. And this is like the weekend, and now he's telling me this on Monday. And I said, well, what did you do? And he said, well, I told the gentleman to knock it off. I told the other guy to knock it off, and he said something even worse. And so I got up and went and told management. And then the guys started being even more obnoxious, and management called police. And the police came, and the police took the guy away. And I told him that was absolutely the best thing to do. Neither he nor his wife were in imminent danger. Do I believe as a man to man, if a man says something to my wife that's crude, do I believe that he should get punched in the face? Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
But is it expedient? Is it the right thing to do? No, it's not. Get the police involved. Because if I'm in a restaurant, that's not my property. I don't have a right to defend that property. So I'm going to go get the property owner. So when he went and told the waitress or whoever he told, and they told management confronted the guy that told him to leave, and then he didn't want to leave. Well, now he's dealing with the police. So now I don't even have to fill out any paperwork. So I solved the problem.
Right.
And that's, again, the art of fighting without fighting is you've got to look at this 360. Because did my student have a right to probably belt the guy in the face for what he said? Yeah. Man to man? Oh, yeah. Think so.
Right. Yeah. There are other alternatives too. I kind of think of the day of old chivalry, where, somebody would insult you and you'd slap them and, you'd say, meet me, with the dueling,
But those days are gone. Those days are gone.
Right. Those days are gone.
Yeah. Those days are gone. I had a case where, I kind of grew up in a rough neighborhood, so we were always fighting. But the fights were always, unless you really did something stupid, they were relatively fair. In other words, if you and I were going at it and you were winning and I said I give, you're gonna stop hitting me.
Right.
If you don't stop hitting me, even your own friends would probably pull you off.
Right.
Those days are gone. So, that's the other issue. If let's say you got a multiple opponent scenario, or you're in fear for your life. Like I said, if you're living the right life, and then you end up in a terribly bad scenario, I think at that point you can then use force with moral clarity, and you can do as much damage as you need to. Look at the first Ip Man movie. He was always trying not to fight, and I think that resonated with people here in the West. A lot of people came in, they wanted to sign up because they saw the movie, and I with them that they portrayed Donnie Yen portrayed Ip Man as a man of honor. People would insult him, and he still didn't want to fight. And the only time he fought for other people, and he fought for when the doofus his wife. He initiated an attack there too. So he fought for noble reasons because he had a clear moral code. Right.
And the clear moral ground. It would be really difficult to not punch somebody who said something bad about your wife. That can take a lot. That would be my Marty McFly situation.
and that's it. Being, as Bruce Lee would say, be honest with yourself, not lying to yourself. Thing to do.
Yeah.
And I go through that, and I tell my guys all the time, if there's something if somebody could say something to you and you can lose your control, you've lost a lot of your martial arts training. Because you know that from sparring. Once you get mad, you start running into shots.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean,
True.
imagine a Navy SEAL and he's on a job. And you hear this nonsense. If a fight's not over in 3 seconds, I did something wrong. Imagine a Navy SEAL with that mentality. If I haven't shot the bad guy in 3 minutes, I did something wrong. No, you're there. You're a professional. As long as it takes to get the job done. But if the Navy SEAL, if the guy comes out, it's an old joke about the Marine Corps, and I grew up in a Marine family, so I got a lot of these jokes. But there's a guy on Iwo Jima, and his CO calls him into his tent, and he says, "Hey son, good news, you're going home." And the kid looks really despondent. And so the CEO goes, "What's the problem? I mean, you're going home, kid. You get your orders." And so he goes, "Well, sir, with all due respect, I haven't killed a single Japanese soldier." And he goes, "So?" So, "Well, sir, I come from a long line of men, fighting men. My great-grandfather killed people in the Civil War. My father killed people in World War I. I haven't killed a single enemy." So the CEO sits there and he goes, "All right, son, I'll tell you what to do. Go up to the edge of the cliff there and get your rifle ready and yell, 'Hirohito's a wimp.' Because there's bound to be plenty of Japanese soldiers still out there in the brush, right? In the bush."
Right.
And so when they pop up, shoot them. "Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea, sir. Thank you, sir." And he's all eager and he runs off. And then about 30 minutes later, he comes walking back in moping. And the CEO goes, "Well, what happened?" He goes, "Well, I did what you said, sir. And so I yelled, 'Hirohito's a jerk and a wimp.' And it's this Japanese guy jumps up and he says, 'So's Roosevelt.' Well, I can't shoot a Republican." So, it's like the joke of that was, that's the same thing here. If somebody yells at me, because I see a guy, let's say I'm not a Trump supporter, and somebody's wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat, what am I going to punch him out?
Right.
Somebody gets so mad, or vice versa. You've got to maintain, martial artists, we have to maintain our composure, and we cannot indulge in that kind of pride. And we always have to maintain tactical lucidity. You got to look at, is this an engagement that I have to fight? And if it's not, as hard as this is to say, especially for men that have an ego thing, I can give you example after example of people they got into trouble because they went to defend a woman who was in a fight with another guy.
Oh, wow.
I mean, call the police.
Right. Yeah. Call the police. It's the best thing you can do. And then I wanted to mention one other thing too for people, and that is that the police are just people. And when you talk to them, if you ever get in a situation, you talk to them, you want to get them on your side as quick as possible. Be nice, be polite. Don't sit there and, "What the hell do you want, man? I'm just defending myself."
Right.
Always acknowledge them, say thank you for showing up. How you doing? This must be awful for you to sit here this evening to come out to something like this. I feel really bad. And then start explaining your side. And then even if you explain your side first, like you were saying, that's the best way, that's the best way to do it first. But if something happens, a police officer approaches you, just remember they're people too. If they can be persuaded, they can be, persuaded to be on your side, and then use their discretionary tactics that they have to whether or not they're going to arrest you or whether or not they're going to close the case and say this guy did it in self-defense.
Right.
So
and it goes back to being respectful. Always be respectful to people.
Right.
And I had a case when I was in college. I took a job as a counselor at a homeless shelter in New York.
Yeah.
And I was kind of green, you know what I mean? I was a little bit naive. Most of the guys, there's about 30 guys in the shelter on any given night. And most of them had been coming out of prison and they were awaiting placement in other facilities and so forth and so on. So it wasn't like these guys had just come off the street. Most of them had been in prison and were coming into the New York State system, placement systems, drug counseling, treatment centers, work programs, so forth. So anyway, a bunch of guys come out of prison, and there I am, and I'm in charge of these 30 guys, and I'm by myself. Well, it was March, I think it was March 1990, and it's the March Madness stuff. So there's 2 different games on, and the guys get into an argument over the TV, what channel to watch. So I'd had it. I had a bunch of stuff to do. So I walked up. I turned the TV off. And I'm 20 years old. And I got all these guys, ex-felons, right? I'm in his house full of ex-felons, and there's me. I turned the TV off. I said, you guys can act like children, but treat you like children. No more TV for the rest of the night. Well, you can imagine that did not go over well. So at 9 o'clock, Saturday night, and everyone hated that shift because Saturday night shift. They're all upstairs in the dorm. The lights out. That's a curfew. Well, I'm downstairs in the day room, and one of the guys comes walking down the stairs, down the hallway, and I said, "What are you doing? What are you doing up?" And he goes, "Hey, listen, man, those guys are upstairs. You got to do your rounds later, your security rounds. They're up there talking about putting a pillowcase over your head or a blanket and beating that crap out of you." and I was like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Yeah, they're pretty upset." And I went, "What are you telling me this for?" And he goes, "Well, I like you. I think you're funny. And I think you screwed up though." So I'm standing there and I'm thinking, yeah, there's me. I got 30 guys. This is not going to go well. And I can't watch my back nonstop. So I thought I just had a charitable donation of like several gallons of ice cream and cookies. Now I've got to intake that stuff, and then I'm supposed to disperse it over the course of a week for meals and snacks. So I was like, all right, forget it. So I go upstairs, I turn the lights on, right? All these guys are in their bed, and they turn and look at me, and I said, guys, I'm really sorry. Listen, today I found that out, which was a lie, but hey, art of war, right?
Right.
So I went, guys, my girlfriend cheated on me. I was just really upset. I took it on you guys. It wasn't fair. I'm really sorry. As a peace offering, upstairs, I've got all the cookies and ice cream you can eat.
Right.
So I got all these like super tough guy felons eating cookies and ice cream.
Right.
It's like that Bill Cosby episode with the kids when he made the kids cake. And it's like, Dad is great. He made us cake for breakfast. Well, these guys were all singing my praises, and that got me out of that problem. Of course, I got yelled at by my boss when he came in Monday. He's like, "You gave away all the cookies and ice cream," and I got reamed out for 10 minutes by my boss. But I'm thinking to myself, I'd rather get screamed at by my boss than shanked upstairs in the dorm room.
Right.
Yeah. So again, as you said, by being civil to somebody and seeing them as human beings. I could have gone, a bunch of losers, a bunch of guys, they got nothing, and I got a job. I mean, I could have done any of that, and
you could have let your ego get in the way, and you didn't. There's a few times where, you're going to be faced with that that bottom line scenario. I don't know. Did you listen to the last podcast with Billy Brown?
No, I haven't gotten that yet. That just came out.
Okay.
No.
He had to brandish his knife on a couple of occasions. And we talked about that. That was the show. Was JKD and knife fighting was the name of basically the theme of the podcast, because he's been in. He does a lot of knife work, and he's been in several altercations. And it's an incredible story. I
gotta listen to that. Yeah.
I'm gonna repeat it here, but basically, it was 3-on-1. He was getting beat up by 3 guys, and they had taken him to the ground. He said that he had given up. They were still hitting him. He pulled out his knife. This whole time he could have pulled out his knife. So he finally pulled out his knife, and he stabbed one of the guys in the hand, a non-lethal stab. And it bled everywhere, and everybody just was shocked. They were just like, "Whoa, what the heck?" And they all left. The police came to him, obviously, and he said something like they closed the investigation in I can't remember exactly, 3 hours or something like that.
Wow.
Because he was totally in the right. They were still hurting him. He made a non-lethal cut, and he could have. And they told him, they said, the reason why you're not going to jail right now is because you had the knife the whole time. You could have pulled it out at any minute. And even after you pulled it out, you could have still hurt a lot more people. You only made one cut.
Yep.
So you have to you have to think. You have to think about your legal ramifications and going through the system and what that's going to do to your family, what that's going to do to your future, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and if that's the reality, if it's the reality changes and we turn into Mad Max or we turn into Walking Dead scenario, then you can be more aggressive with your tactics. But unless and God forbid that happens, you have to be that, because that saves that guy from, any one of us could be in a scenario like that, and how horrible it would be to be assaulted, to defend yourself in an excessive way and end up going to jail for it. I mean, you can't think of a tactic, something happened to you that's really worse than that. Because again, you ruined your life. I mean, you've got a family. I mean, if I go to jail for defending myself, I mean, I'm not going to be able to see my son grow up.
Right.
Because I wanted to eye gouge somebody and then break their windpipe. Right. And that's a serious issue. So I can't do that. I've got to make sure I can control myself, and I get a chance every day to control myself. Some of you guys, depending on where you live, who your listeners, and if you live in areas where there's bad traffic, and you're getting a chance every day to practice self-control and patience.
Right.
And I'm telling you, that's what makes powerful people.
So let me ask.
Go ahead.
So let me ask you this question, and that is, so how does all this affect your training? Does it affect your training at all? So
Yes, that's a great question.
Yeah, so when it comes down to, okay, I'm teaching people this or that or whatever.
Yeah, I train, and I love that question. And I was just having this conversation with another JKD instructor last night, is that we go over counterattack a lot more and not closing on a target. You know what I mean? We tell, listen, there's not a lot of scenarios where you're gonna be closing on a target from 6 to 8 feet out, and so we have a lot more emphasis on counterattack and escape than we would, than finishing the target. Don't finish because it's like the same thing with handguns. A lot of guys I know with gun culture, they'll say, well, I'm really accurate from like 100 yards. And I'm going, how many scenarios can you come up with, let's say in downtown Atlanta, where you're going to shoot somebody from 30 yards away? That's called murder.
Yeah.
Right. So your tactics that you train for, and I've been criticized for this by JKD people. Jason's not teaching you how to finish people, because I'm teaching people to be more evasive and to disengage. And I have been criticized. People have come up and said, you're not teaching people how to, be more aggressive enough to finish a fight. And I'm like, I think, well, I'm not teaching them to commit a felony. That's what I'm not doing.
Right. I think that the idea is and it's true, but you just have to accept the legal ramifications. And that is, the idea is that when it comes down to it, you want to, hurt the guy to where he's not going to be able to get back into his car and grab a gun and all that stuff. Yeah. And, I see the logic in that. And I certainly, and I've trained that way, that's the way, you chain punch him. We practiced chain punches, 1,000 a night to 4,000 a night. When I started, my first day in Wing Chun Kung Fu was 1,000 chain punches. That was my first lesson. Oh yeah. And then I did 1,000 chain punches at the end of the night. And by the time I was a
little ibuprofen after that.
Yeah, by the time I was I kind of had a little bit of an advantage because I came from JKD, so I already knew how to throw chain punches, but it still hurt a lot. But by the time you were an advanced, you're a BUG student, you were supposed to be able to throw 4,000 chain punches without stopping. That was one of the requirements. And if you lost count, they would make you start over. They'd come up and go, what number you wanted? You had to tell them. And they say, well, if you said, I don't know, you'd be like, okay, start over.
You're making stuff up.
Yeah, well, exactly, because I didn't know. But the idea is that I'm just going to chain punch this guy until it's over, Yeah. And of course, there's logic in that. You don't want to, get hurt, but at the same time, you have to accept the fact that if you do that, if you chain punch the guy or whatever it is you're going to do, box him, hook punch, whatever it is you're going to do, and you do it excessively, even if you don't do it excessively, you're going to have to face the reality that you might go to jail and be on the wrong side of the law. Yeah,
and that's the thing. If somebody says to me, oh, well, what's the best weapon for me to use? And I tell them, well, it's a context. I think a hand grenade is a great weapon, but it's not so good to use in a phone booth. Okay, so I got a handgun. So if I shoot a handgun, I don't know where that round's going to go. Once I pull the trigger, the physics of it. And so that's a weapon. Everything's got a context. So if you're in an environment where there is no law, right, the anarchy has broken out. You've got to have your tactics consistent with the legal environment and the political environment that you're existing in. And so,
Right.
yeah, I mean, I think there was a time the straight black people, I can think of scenarios where straight black people until they're dead,
Right. Right.
or
Right.
you deploy your knife or you deploy your shotgun or what have you as soon as you need to. But those are more war scenarios, or third world countries which are have no law and order. You do that in modern Europe and the United States, and you're going to be in serious trouble. So
Right.
you have to adjust. Yeah, you have to adjust your tactics. So our JKD stuff, we spend a lot of time on making sure we don't do anything more than intercepting an attack and
Right.
stopping it, right?
Right.
And then trying
Right.
to break off, because I can legally tell the police, listen, as you were saying, be polite to the police officer and say, I was just trying to get away from him. He was rushing me. I hit him, and I was trying to get away. And so,
Right.
at that point, now a woman would have a different story than, say, a guy, because if you've got a 215-pound man, and he's a JKD guy, he's an MMA guy, and he gets into a fight with a guy that's 150 pounds, the police are going to be looking at that going, I was in an altercation a number of years ago where I nailed a guy with a straight left hand, and he outweighed me by about a good 30 pounds. And so the cops show up and they're like, you done any training? And I went, yeah, I do. I box, I do JKD, and I'm bragging. And the cop's like, you don't, and he's shaking his head at me. Like he's talking to a child. You don't do any training, right? And I went, no, I do. He says again, you don't do any training, right? And he's got this clipboard out, he's got the form out, he's got the pen. And he's being so nice to me because he's like, you don't do any training, right? And I went, oh.
Yeah.
Because it was obvious to him that for me to have knocked this guy out, I must have had some kind of skills. And and I'm running my mouth to the cop like I'm proud of myself. And fortunately, the cop was,
well, if you get, like you said, Len, like I said, and like you've affirmed as well, you get the police officer on your side.
Yeah.
He's gonna work in your favor. He's gonna fudge those things in your favor. Be nice to him. Try to get him on your side. That's one of the. They're just people. They're there to do a job. They don't.
Yep.
Think about it from their perspective. Everywhere they go, people are lying to them. Everywhere they go, there's people who don't want to see them. It's just like.
Think about, treat your neighbors you want to be treated. I don't want somebody telling me what a jerk I am and how stupid I am. And so, right. I mean, I'm going to be I'm not going to do somebody any favors if they treat me like that. Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
why would I treat somebody else like that? And I think that goes into the respect, the self-control that are martial arts. That's why I'm always concerned as martial arts moves away from that. And I think JKD was a prime mover in people moving away from saying, oh, traditional martial arts are crap. Now, I mean, and granted, I think a lot of the stuff that goes on in martial arts is crap. But, however, that certainly does not mean that the self-control and the honor are crap. And so when we begin to lose that, I think, we turn ourselves more Lord of the Flies scenarios kind of works out more than is necessary. And once more, if you train to finish people, to be that brutal, and I hear that a lot, it's so flippant. It's just, if I was in a fight, it would be brutal. It would be, and they're almost happy about it.
Right. Stomp the head. Yeah. Stomp the, yeah. Stomp the head, right, kind of a thing. And one thing that has to be said in this whole scenario too, Jason, is that the more you train, the more you're confident in your abilities, the
absolutely right.
Yeah, the less you're likely. I mean, I've looked at people and I've been like, you don't know what you're doing, and I feel bad for you. It's one of those things like, well, you better not put your hands on me because I will defend myself. But I'm not saying that out loud because that can.
No, yeah. Well, why would you do it? Because that's going to be used against you legally.
But I'm thinking that. But outwardly, I'm just saying, hey, that's enough. Because I'm inwardly, I'm thinking like, look, I know this guy has no idea.
Right.
It's just like, you even knew I do martial arts, but you didn't realize how well I could kick to the head. It's just like I look at somebody and they look at me and they see somebody who's not. I mean, I'm not like a fat guy or anything, but you know what I mean. I'm stocky. I'm not the tallest guy. I'm not. I'm built more like a bodybuilder than I am like an athlete kind of a thing. And I'm like, you have no idea how quick I can move. You have
No,
none. You have
you
no
never know who
idea
to mess
that,
with.
yeah. So I give somebody the benefit of the doubt. And there's been so many times where I haven't wanted to, like I said before, I can't even tell you how many times I just wanted to just beat the crap out of somebody. But I was just like, look,
Mm-hmm.
it is not worth it. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Any final thoughts you want to leave our guests with this whole topic of legality and martial arts?
Mm-hmm. I
Any final?
I have some guys in here that are lawyers, and I talk with them a lot, and I actually have them brief students on what not to say in any kind of situation when they're in official contact with the police.
Okay.
And I mean, I don't know how in depth you want to go, but let's say again, I don't want to try to use the word. If the police come here and they're taking a statement, so well, okay, the guy attacked me, and I hit him, and I don't even want to say I hit him.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say the guy was attacking me. I was in fear for my life, and I was just trying to protect myself. So, well, then what happened? Well, I was just trying to defend myself, and it's say, did you? I don't want to go out of my way and say I hit him with a jab, hit him with a cross, hit him with a hook, because think about that from the perspective of if they decide to press charges and it goes to trial, there's going to be a jury of 12 people, and I don't know. I mean, I get around a little bit, and sometimes, and I have a very dim view of the of the cognitive capacity of some of my fellow citizens, and
Right.
they could be emotionally moved. And I don't want to have, and I'm not saying all of my fellow neighbors, but some of them, and they could be on a jury. And so if an enterprising lawyer reads back, so the defendant, Jason Korol over here, said he was in fear for his life, but he was very aware of his surroundings. So does this sound like a man in fear? He threw an overhand right at me, and I sidestepped, and I came back with a 1-2, and then pushed him backwards, and took his back and choked him out.
Right.
And of course, the victim, suffered a catastrophic stroke for that. So I'm sitting there in a jury, and they're going to do everything they can to paint me as this martial arts expert extraordinaire that was just looking for the right opportunity to do somebody in.
Right.
I might have never. I mean, you can have listeners here that may have never. Maybe there's just a white belt level skill, but that's not what the jury's going to hear.
Yeah.
The jury,
well,
and so you got to be careful what you say.
Getting to a jury, because the lawyers really don't want to do their jobs. Mm-hmm. And then if you're a defendant, you have to pay for the lawyer. That's all there is to it. All the money comes out of your pocket up front.
Exactly.
So get somebody who's going to say like, well, this is going to be, I'm an expert and all this stuff. Those things cost thousands of dollars out of your own pocket if you're the defendant.
Yep.
This is why they do the plea bargain.
Yep.
My friend who ended up taking, he actually took a felony, but it was one of those felonies where it was like a plea in abeyance, where like if you did everything right, it dropped out down to a misdemeanor or something like that. But I mean, he defended himself, but he didn't throw the first punch. He was protecting somebody else. He was protecting a third party. And the very fact that he got charged, he said, I could not afford $10,000 to go to trial. And my lawyer wanted $10,000 to go to trial.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Then if you get a public attorney, they are going to push you to, because they don't want to work. I mean, they do want to work. I'm not trying to paint them with all the bad brush, but for the most part, it becomes this legal game. I know a lot of people, like a friend of mine, he said, like, if I could get in front of a jury, I could just tell my story, and I think people would believe me.
It's the same thing, and this is what our lawyers say here. It's the same thing as you train people to keep their hands up after they punch, and it's natural to drop your hands.
Yeah.
So you train that out of us. We do the practice. It's the same thing. Practice training your mouth to repeat the following. I was in fear. I was trying to get away.
Right.
They attacked me. I didn't have any choice. And that's what you continue to say. And you do not deviate the message. If you that's how you can get charged. And make sure you get ahead of the game by filing charges. I was trying to escape, and a lawyer wants to do that. I mean, you can call it bluff. He says, well, you punched this guy and he fell down and he's hurt bad. I was in fear. I was just trying to keep him off of me. Did you hit him with the right hand? I was just trying to keep him off of me. Did you hit him with a? What you hit him with? Did you hit him with the right cross? You hit him with a? I was just trying to keep him off of me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
stay on message. Keep the discipline. Don't drop your hands. You know what I mean? Because they're looking for something that you could say that they're going to try. They may try and bring charges against you. Because you know you've seen that with interviews, selective editing of interviews.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, you could edit what I'm saying and make me, you know, look like a colossal jerk. But right, so
I'm gonna make you look like you're the second gunman on the grassy knoll when I'm done messing up.
I said pre-incarnate Jason. Yeah, and so you got to think, if you do get a lawyer or a prosecuting attorney who just needs more prosecutions to advance his political career, you don't want to give him any ammo to work with.
Right.
And if if he doesn't have anything to work with, he's going to forget it.
Yeah.
He's just going to move on. He's going to move on to an easier target. As far as self-defense, we always tell people, be alert, be aware of your surroundings. Don't look like an easy target. Same thing in that scenario. Don't help a prosecutor out by shooting your mouth off and saying something they could spin against you. I was in fear. I was in fear of my life. I was trying to get away from him. I was just trying to keep him off of me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I mean, again, and repeat yourself, not stop. Now, if you didn't do that, if you were part of the problem, then okay, then they get to go back to our earlier points. Be polite, have self-control, try to escape, right? Try to evade.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be stupid.
Right. Right.
And
then I want to say too, though, that I didn't want people to think that I'm painting like all lawyers with one brush or anything like that. I really don't. I got friends that are lawyers; they're really good. And then if you get a lawyer,
I'm sure there's some out there.
Yeah, if you get a lawyer that's worth these people. Yeah. That's how they make their money. They're not doing it, just for the cause. Mm-hmm. If you're a defendant, they're taking, that's what they do. That's their job. I'm not saying that they're just taking your money or robbing you blindly. I'm just pointing the fact out that it costs a lot of money and it's very labor intensive, and they're going to try to get you to settle outside of court with a plea bargain.
Exactly.
Costing all kinds of money. So I'm not trying to say that all lawyers are bad or anything like that. I didn't want people to think that. I've got good friends who are lawyers out there.
But it's true. It's worth it. That's like saying when we're going outside, to be vigilant and to make sure you're aware of your surroundings. That's not to say everyone's evil. That's just to say there could be one evil person, and that's a problem. Well, you could be an altercation, and there could be one really bad cop. Yeah. There could be one really aggressive prosecutor that just wants to press charges on you because you look like some guy that his girlfriend cheated with back in high school. And I mean, so don't say something stupid.
Right. Those are good points. So yeah. I like that what you're saying though, but make sure what you are saying and what you're not saying. You're not saying, oh yeah, I defended myself by doing a front groin kick to a side kick, and then I came down and I back fisted him, and then I followed up with a side kick to the knee. Yep. Right. And that's what I thought was, you just say, hey, look, I was in fear for my life. I thought I was in danger, and I tried to keep the guy off of me. And that's going to be good.
Right. And if your actions are consistent with that, then you should be fine.
Right.
It's just a question of, like, if you go in and you're eye gouging, and there's a lot of that in Jeet Kune Do, where they're chain punching, they're eye gouging, they're headbutting, and then they grab the guy's head, they elbow him, and all that stuff's fine and cool. But you're gonna have because not only that, with a prosecutor, you might have a civil problem. Right. Especially if somebody then goes, because it's Facebook today. I mean, somebody go finds a video of you wearing a shirt that fear is for wussies. We just kill people here, or whatever. Let's say you get some hyper masculine, aggressive slogan at your school, and there's some photos of you on Facebook with that, and then you get into a fight, or one of your students gets into a fight, and they hurt somebody bad. Let's say they get a blowout fracture of your orbital bone, which required surgery, and that person doesn't have any insurance. I guarantee you, they're going to get a civil lawsuit.
Right. Yeah.
So sure. Why do it? I mean, you're not going to find. I mean, on the other hand, I had a video. I got on our YouTube channel. There's a video where I'm going over some eye jabs and eye gouges, and one of the comments, and I get some emails and comments. One guy actually said, "I'd rather lose a fight than gouge somebody's eye out," and I don't respond to stuff too often, but my point with that is that goes to show you that you don't understand what a fight is. Right. If you would rather lose a fight than gouge somebody's eye out, your definition of a fight is vastly dissimilar to mine. My definition of a fight is because I have to fight. Somebody's trying to kill me or my family. Any other scenario, I'm moving, I'm running, I'm dodging everything I can.
Right.
And so that's what I mean. So you have that moral, legal clarity. If somebody's in my house at 2 a.m. and they're trying to rape my wife, I've got a legal and moral right, well, especially in my state, to use a lot of force.
Right.
And I'm not going to get asked a lot of uncomfortable questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You have to look at the state you're in too. And always check the law in your state, by the way. Yep. Because it's not going to be the same where Jason lives. It's not going to be the same where I live. It's just a different, it's a different set of circumstances. It's a different set of rules depending upon where you live. So always do that, and always consult with a lawyer as well before you, decide what kind of level of force you think you can handle.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, Jason. Well, thank you so much for joining me on today's program. I really appreciate it. And just so everybody knows, Jason has written an ebook on Jeet Kune Do. Tell us a little bit about the ebook. We talked about it last time, but you know what? I've got a whole group of new listeners since then. So please tell me a little bit about the ebook and where people can find it.
Sure. It's Jeet Kune Do, pure and simple, and it's about how it was Bruce Lee's exposure to the concepts of Wing Chun that he later related to the counterattack system of the old school boxing and the bare knuckle, vertical fist, Jim Driscoll style old school boxing. And that's where most of the major concepts and components come into Jeet Kune Do. And so I want to try to strip away some of the myths surrounding the system. I've got 2 others coming out, man. They should be out before the summer's over.
Well, okay. We're going to have to get you back on the program before the summer's over. As soon as they come out.
That'd be great.
But you got to send me review copies though.
That's a great idea.
Send me some review copies, and I will read them, and then I'll be able to talk more intelligently about them on the program.
All right. That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, stay with me, Jason. I want to talk to you just a little bit afterwards, after the program over. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me on the Empty Cup podcast. If you like what you heard, please, you know what to do. You share this on your favorite social media, and you also write a review in iTunes or Stitcher Radio or Podcast One, wherever you heard this. That helps people so much know about this program and get people to the channel. And my job here is just to provide content and quality content at that, and that's what I'm dedicated to do, is just keep providing this quality content. Also, if you're interested in following us, you can follow us on Facebook at Facebook.com/The Empty Cup Podcast, and Twitter at Empty Cup Podcast. And you can go to my YouTube page where you can see this interview and pretty much all my interviews except for a few at the very beginning. If you want to do that, and that's at Ronin JKD. And also I upload like vlogs, like little ideas about martial arts that come to me, that, stuff like that. And I do like training videos over on that channel. So if you're interested in, I even have a couple sparring sessions. So if you're interested in seeing me spar with some MMA guys and how JKD fares with MMA guys, you are welcome to go over there and watch that on Ronin JKD. Thanks for joining me, and until we meet again, please keep your gloves up.